What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're getting ready for the Joker's Wild expansion, there's a number of key resources that you want to have heading into that next major annual pass update. Now, in a previous video, I've gone over how to get things like mod components. I've also made a video on how to get enhancement cores. And if those videos have been helpful, please make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate all the support and love making these videos, and hopefully these are helpful for you guys moving forward as we go into the Joker's Wild expansion. In this video, I'm going to focus on another material that you want to have, that being legendary shards. If you have been playing this game for a bit of time, you more than likely have a decent amount of these, but you want to make sure that you have a lot of these heading into Joker's Wild because of how important they are throughout the entire game. You need these for infusion purposes, you need these for things like the enhancement core method that I shared last time, and you just want to make sure you have a nice amount of these heading into Season of the Drifter. So let's focus on how you can get these quickly, and what are the best ways of making sure that you don't spend these things unnecessarily. So let's jump into legendary shards. Now, these can be gotten in a number of ways. You get these by dismantling your gear, and also too by doing certain bounties. So the very first thing I would do is look at your character, look at your vault. You likely have a lot of gear that you may not even be using, and really doesn't fit your long-term plans anyway. So I would focus on dismantling all the junk that you might have accumulated throughout Forsaken and throughout Black Armory. There's a lot of stuff here that there's no reason why I should have this on my character. Either it's a low light level, it might have really bad perks, and every time I dismantle that, I'm going to get 3 legendary shards and some Gunsmith Materials, and those will come in handy, and we'll get to those in a bit here. But I would focus on dismantling a lot of this junk, especially if you have any year 1 stuff. Like you can notice right now, I just dismantled a year 1 bond. I have this Yuga Sundown bond as well. This is from Escalation Protocol. And you want to make sure that you're breaking down the year 1 stuff because, number 1, it's a very low power level. Number 2, it doesn't have the good set of perks that the year 2 stuff has. So make sure you're getting rid of all that old junk, and that's going to increase your legendary shard total pretty significantly. So if I run over to my vault here, for instance, I have a lot of stuff in there. If you guys are like me, you just kind of throw stuff in your vault haphazardly, and you may have some duplicates, and that's, I think, going to be your first line of defense here, is getting rid of any duplicates, the lower light stuff, the stuff that doesn't have the best set of perks on it. So you want to be careful that you don't dismantle something by accident that has a really good roll, but you also want to make sure that you're not just throwing stuff in there and forgetting about it like I have often done here in the past. So this will be a great way of bumping up your legendary shard total. Another nice thing you can do is make sure that you're focusing on doing your bounties each week. So while these don't necessarily give you a legendary piece of armor or weapon right away, they do give you tokens. So for instance, you can get Crucible tokens by doing these. If I head over to my boy Z, he's going to give me Vanguard tokens, and these are going to come in handy because you can turn those in to Shaxx and Zavala respectively, and every time you rank up a package, you're going to be getting a legendary weapon or armor, and you can always break those down if you don't need them, and that's going to be a nice way of bumping up your total. So don't expect to have a crazy amount of tokens right away, but if you're grabbing every bounty each day, that's going to help out quite a bit. You can also augment that if somebody in your team uses a boon of the Crucible or a boon of the Vanguard. I wouldn't recommend buying these right away unless you have a crazy amount of shards, in which case this video doesn't really apply to you, but maybe one of your fire team members has a bunch of shards and they can hook you up and buy some of these boons. That'll help you out in turn because you'll get some of these Gift of the Vanguard tokens. Sometimes you even get legendary weapons and armor anyway, and that's going to give you some extra shards as long as you don't like the perks on that. But all these things can kind of work together to make sure that you are maximizing your efficiency when it comes to bumping up your legendary shard total. So to recap here, we've talked about dismantling weapons and armor you don't need, checking your vault. We've talked about making sure that you grab the bounties from Shaxx and Zavala, the Drifter, etc. They're going to give you tokens. The tokens can then be used to turn in to Shaxx and Zavala to get more packages, and you can keep rinsing and repeating that process. Another thing you want to do too is make sure that you're taking advantage of any unique activities that are around every now and again. Right now, for instance, we have the Iron Banner going on. So you can make sure that you can go over to Lord Salad and pick up not only all the bounties that he has, but you're going to get a lot of tokens along the way as well. Tokens drop a lot faster in Iron Banner, so you're going to be getting a bunch of these things to turn in. Now you don't have to turn them all in at one time, just like with Zavala and Shax. You don't have to turn those all in right away, but it's nice to have these on hand because I can always turn these in. It only takes 20 tokens to get a package, and I'm going to get a lot of legendary gear this way. There's a good chance that a lot of this gear will kind of be not useless, but I may not have the best perks on it. I may not use that weapon type, and you can always dismantle that gear to get more legendary shards. The nice thing is these don't expire. The Vanguard tokens don't expire. Shax tokens don't expire. So even if you have a bunch of them, you don't necessarily have to turn all of them in at this particular time. It's a nice way of knowing that, hey, if I need to, I can turn these in, dismantle that gear, and bump up my legendary shard total. So make sure that you're taking advantage of unique events like Iron Banner, because they do have the bounties that give you powerful gear, that give you legendary gear, and they do give you a lot of other rewards to bump up your legendary shard total. Along similar lines, there's also other bounties you can do that will give you legendary gear, namely the bounties that Spider has over in the Tangled Shore. So you want to make sure that you're going there each and every week, talk to Spider, grab his Wanted Bounties. You may get some awesome gear that way, but you'll likely get gear that you don't necessarily really want to use. You can break that down, and it's basically just giving you extra or free legendary shards. The last thing too, and this is something that you'll be doing anyway, and it goes along the lines of playing the game normally, but make sure you're doing all of your milestones. And these are things like the daily and weekly Gambit matches. These are things like the daily heroic strikes, the adventures, playing Crucible games. You also have the Flashpoint each week. But all of these things here that have the milestones on them, not only are they going to give you a chance of getting an exotic weapon or armor, but you're going to get powerful gear from that. And obviously that's going to help you out when it comes to reaching the max power level. But more than likely, most of the time, you're going to be dismantling that stuff anyway, and that's going to be bumping up your legendary shard total. Now, in my opinion, the fastest way of getting legendary shards is via the Escalation Protocol activity, and that is something that you can find on Mars. This is something that, if you haven't played it, make sure you guys are doing that, because some of the weapons and armor you can get from that either look really cool, or in the case of the Escalation Protocol shotgun, it's one of the best weapons in the game, even with the impending changes to shotguns. So make sure that you're taking advantage of Escalation Protocol. This is an activity where, because it's a year one thing, it's a lower light level, you should be able to go in there with a fire team and then have the randoms that are in that instance be able to get the activity done pretty quickly. There are 7 waves. There's a bunch of enemies that go there. So you're going to be getting a lot of things to drop. You're going to have a lot of blue or a lot of rare weapons and armor drop, so you'll be able to dismantle those and get Gunsmith Materials. You're going to have a lot of purples drop during that. And then you might also get the weapons from that itself. But that's going to be a great way of not only getting a lot of engrams, you're going to get prime engrams from that. I've gotten exotic engrams from that. And it's going to be a great way of getting stuff to drop during the actual activity. The other nice thing is you're going to get a lot of shaders that drop from the level 7 boss. Now, these are nice because unlike most shaders, when you dismantle these, let's find a decent one. Unlike most shaders that give you Bright Dust, which is nice in its own right, the certain shaders will give you legendary shards, like Bray Innovation from Mars. That will give you a legendary shard. You'll get the legendary shards from the shaders from Brother Vance. And in this case here, with the Escalation Protocol, these are going to give you legendary shards as well. So every time you beat level 7, you're going to get between 3 and 5 shaders that drop every single time. And if you're in a pretty decent group, you're going to be able to clear level 7 roughly every 5 to 7 minutes. So you imagine if you do that for 45 minutes an hour, you're going to get a ton of shaders to drop in addition to every single other thing you get during that activity. So this is a great way of getting a ton of legendary shards really quickly, along with some other potentially great rewards like the shotgun. Now, if you guys are having trouble with Escalation Protocol, I do a stream for that pretty much every single week. Whenever the shotgun's available, I do a live stream. So guys, definitely check that out if you haven't. I play with pretty much anybody, and that's how I've gotten all these shaders here. But would love to play with you guys. You can always send me a friend request, Mr_Josie Wales. Make sure you guys are subscribed and have the notifications on. That way you know when the live stream is happening. But Escalation Protocol is going to be one of your best bets when it comes to getting legendary shards. Now the last thing, and a lot of these things kind of have some synergy with one another, is a lot of these things are going to give you Gunsmith Materials. And while they have increased the cost of getting a package, these are going to be a nice way of getting a couple extra things here. And I know each one costs roughly 100 or so, I think, to get a package from Banshee. But that's going to give you an engram. Whatever it is, more than likely you probably won't need it. Just break it down and you'll get some legendary shards that way. There's also the very, very slim chance that you'll get an exotic, and that's always going to be a nice little surprise when that does happen. Now, I would recommend holding on to a good amount of Gunsmith Materials for Joker's Wild, because you might be able to get some new weapons or armor that way. And also, too, it's nice to have these for other things like mod components and other strategies that I have that I'll link in the description. But that's kind of like your last resort. You always have all the engrams that go here to Rahul, whether it be prime engrams or whether it be the rare exotic one. I got this actually from one of the raids, but pretty much all these things I'm getting here are year one things I can always grab from my collections if I want them. And hey, it's nice to get some masterwork here, get some extra enhancement cores. But all of those that I just decrypted there, I can pretty much dismantle every single one of those, and I'll get a nice, 25, 30 shards or so. But that's what I would recommend, guys. Milestones, bounties from our vendors here, making sure that you dismantle any extra shaders that you don't need. A lot of those do dismantle into legendary shards, like the Escalation Protocol ones. Make sure that you're taking advantage of unique events like Iron Banner. Make sure that you're grabbing bounties from Spider, because those give you legendary gear. And just making also sure that you don't spend them unnecessarily. Don't be buying a crazy amount of boons here, boons of the Vanguard, boons of the Crucible, unless you have a bunch of shards and you want to help your teammates. Likewise, too, you want to make sure that you're not infusing things unnecessarily and wasting enhancement cores, wasting your legendary shards, and putting yourself in a bind maybe later on. Guys, thank you all so much for watching these. I will make a final video shortly before Joker's Wild comes out and have it be the ultimate farming guide as you head into Joker's Wild. I appreciate all the support. Can't wait to play with you guys when Season of the Drifter comes out. And have a great day and great weekend. Talk to you guys soon.